Hi everyone, David Aragona and Craig Milkowski are taking a look at one of the stakes events on Pegasus World Cup Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Race 6 is the La Prevoyante Stakes, grade 3 event going a mile and an eighth for the fillies and mares, and plenty of stakes races on this card, the La Prevoyante being just one of them. Also on Sunday at Gulfstream Park, take note if you like to play the Rainbow Six on those mandatory payout days. Sunday is one of those at Gulfstream, so a lot to look forward to at Gulfstream this weekend. But in race 6 on Saturday, Craig, this La Prevoyante got a field of 9 signed on, and it does feel like there are going to be two horses that take the bulk of play in this race, and those are the number 1, Romagna Mia, and the number 3, Kelly Kim. Haven't yet seen the morning line, but they do feel like two fairly legitimate favorites in here.
They do. This is a race. It's a day of pretty wide open stakes races. I'm not sure this falls into that category.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector before we go through this field. And I'm not sure how important this pace projector really is in a mile and a half race, Craig, but it does feel like horses like the number 4, Alpha Bella, and the number 8, Tass, likely to go forward. Both of them have had success as front runners at one point or another. And Alpha Bella is just trying this distance for the first time. So I think her natural speed in some shorter route races might just put her on the front end going this longer distance.
These are always the toughest races to predict the pace because obviously pretty much every horse in this field could go fast enough to take the lead if they really wanted it. It just wouldn't be ideal. So I've got no issue with the pace projector here. What I really look for is the fast pace flag, which we don't have.
Yeah, the number 3, Kelly Kim, is the one that gets that Timeform US late pace flag. But if you look at these Timeform US late pace ratings in Timeform US, a number of them are very closely grouped, including the number 1, Romagna Mia. It's really going to be a test to see who is the fastest finisher at the end of this race. Well, let's go through some of the contenders, Craig, beginning with the number 1, Romagna Mia. And she's just been in great form since coming to this country for Graham Ocean last year. Lost the Beverly D, which has proven to be a pretty good race in retrospect, given that she's beaten by Fev Rover and Gina Romantica, both grade 1 winners now. And since then, she's won 2 in a row. As you can see here, we're taking a look at the Dowager 2 back at Keeneland, her last turf race, and she was a pretty easy winner of this race. She's got her ears pricked through this fine Leifa mile, drawing off under John Velasquez, and even an easier victory last time when she tried the synthetic in the Via Borghese, beating a couple of rivals that are back in against her here and had no trouble handling the mile and a half on synth. This is definitely the right distance for her, and she's in great form.
Yeah, I don't have any knocks on this horse at all. Even when the race was rained off the turf last time to the synthetic, she had no issue transferring that form. The distance is fine, so she feels like the horse to beat to me.
The number 2, Viva La Red, was beaten quite a ways by the favorite, the likely favorite, Romagna Mia, in that Via Borghese last time. And no match for that one, Craig. Now stepping up into a tougher field, has never run fast enough to be considered a legitimate contender here. She'd be a big surprise.
Yeah, feels like a little bit of field filler. She's never run a race remotely close enough to be competitive here.
The number 3 is Kelly Kim, and she feels like a real rival for that rail-drawn horse, Romagna Mia. We'll take a look at her last victory when she won the Long Island in mid-November at Aqueduct and got a good trip this race from Jose Ortiz, who was very patient moving around the far turn. But once he tips her out at the top of the stretch, you could see she just closes this field down pretty easily to run past them to the wire, going away at the end. And really all 4 of her victories in 2023 look just like this, Greg. And I think the interesting thing about her is that they have continually stepped her up in class with each subsequent start. And you could argue they're doing so again here as she faces a better rival like Romagna Mia, but she might be up to the challenge because she seems like she's been in great form coming into this race.
Yeah, I feel like she's the one of the 2 contenders that would probably need some pace. I think Romagna Mia is the filly who is most likely to just have that kick regardless of the pace. Kelly Kim would have to improve a little bit. Her speed figures are progressing, but I think she'd need another jump forward, and that's a real question for a 7-year-old.
Yeah, she was definitely beating a weaker field in this last time, but she does appear to be training well for this race. She's been working in the morning with her stablemate Verstappen, has looked very good in company with that rival. So feels like it's possible we could see another step forward from Kelly Kim in this La Prevoyante. The number 4 is Alpha Bella, and she's a horse that hasn't won on the turf in a while, not since she broke her maiden on this surface back in December of her 2-year-old season at Gulfstream. Did achieve a victory in a match match race on the dirt at Saratoga over the summer, but more so in her stakes races on the turf. She's just been knocking on the door against some decent competition. That was the case last time when she was third in a blanket finish at 11-1 in the Tropical Park Oaks. And Greg, I'm intrigued by this stretch out in distance for Todd Pletcher. Clearly, they think that the added distance could work for this daughter of Justify. There's some stamina on the dam side, but she's going to have to improve a little bit.
She would have to improve, but I also like to stretch out a little bit. I think her big chance is what we saw on the pace projector. I think there's a chance she could go to the front, and that's never a bad thing at Gulfstream on the turf. It's a little bit different than some other turf courses we're going to talk about later in the year, and I wouldn't be shocked if she's alone on the front end.
I don't think the distance is going to be any problem for the number 5 Anatolian. I just wonder if the class is going to be a bit of an issue for her, because she seems like one that wants to run all day. I mean, she's been competitive and actually going away at the end of her mile and a quarter races on the dirt. That takes some real stamina. Now she's going back to the turf, stretching out to a mile and a half. I think she'll get it. I just don't know how fast she's going to get the distance, Craig.
That's the big issue. And you could even argue that she's been winning on dirt, but she might be better on turf based on her speed figures. But there's still a pretty big gap between her best races and what we've seen from the favorites.
The number 6 is Sister O'Toole. Let's take a look at her most recent race in the red carpet at Del Mar, where I think it's fair to say, Craig, that she was fairly pace compromised this day. The winner of this race, Linda's Gift, just got to set her own pace on the front end, and it's pretty much a merry-go-round except for Sister O'Toole, who makes a good late run from last up into third. The problem with her, if you're going to knock her, Craig, is that not facing the toughest competition out in California, and feels like that's where she's achieved some of her best results recently, and feels like the rivals that she's facing here are a little bit tougher.
I would agree. This is definitely a tougher field. As you know, she was pace compromised, which is why I wanted to see that replay. The winner of that race has come back to win again since Linda's Gift, but as you can see with the speed figure, she's just a cut below the others.
The number 7 is Sensitivity, who figures to be another long shot in this race. She beat a weaker field at Tampa last time in an N1X allowance race, did close well into a slow pace to get the job done, but she's just never run a speed figure that makes her competitive at this level.
No, her races are littered with those blue fractions recently, and she's run fine, but as you note, it's against much weaker competition, and she would need to take a very large step forward.
The number 8, Tass, is a likable horse. She's been around for a long time, and it seems like Jorge Abreu's got her back in decent form now as an 8-year-old since claiming her for Flying P Stable 4 starts back. She's run 3 competitive races in a row. They're just 3 races that don't quite make her one of the major contenders in here, because she faced off against Romagna Mia last time in that mile and a half via Borghese and was no match for that one's late kick through the stretch.
Right, no match, and she pretty much had things her own way on the front end on a clear lead, and just seems like she's a class level below that one.
Rounding out the field is the number 9, Highland Grace. I think the best thing to say about her, Craig, is that she is a 4-year-old filly who's relatively lightly raised, and she might have a step forward in her. Here is her last race when she's closing up the inside over a yielding turf course in the Sands Point, and this just felt like a course that some horses didn't handle, but was no problem for Highland Grace. She just was given a bit too much ground to make up through the lane here, because she really is finishing through the wire on this day. She's gone as far as a mile and 3/8, actually won going that distance at Belmont over the summer when she broke her maiden. So I think the distance could be okay for her. Needs to take a big step forward from a speed figure standpoint, but maybe she's ready now to make that progression.
Yeah, the fact she's a newly turned 4-year-old, she's coming off a layoff. I wouldn't hold those speed figures against her as much as I would some others, but it's still a pretty big jump up to Romagna Mia.
Certainly doesn't hurt to get Flavian Pratt aboard, and he has been aboard for her 2 prior victories in New York over the summer. So interesting rider switch on her. Well, let's throw up our picks for this La Prevoyante, Craig, and I can see that we pretty much agree, at least on the top pick. Romagna Mia, she's just looked dominant in her last couple of races, and she's got that big late kick, and what I like about it is that when she hits top speed, it feels like she can sustain it for a furlong, 3/16, a quarter a mile. And I think that's really going to serve her well if John Velasquez decides to move early in this race and take it over.
Yeah, I think this is one of the favorites on the card. I don't want to get too clever and try to beat her very much. I think she's going to run well. She gets a good post, and just I couldn't come up with a reason to bet against her.
Yeah, I've been afraid of Arkali Kim. I think that upward progression makes her dangerous in here, but Romagna Mia, if she holds her form, she's going to be tough to beat in this La Prevoyante race 6 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.